the lockdown. I just had to start doing that. And I believe in my mind, I feel as if the judiciary is moving faster than the bench. So, but we must work together to make sure we cut corruption and to use technology to make life easier. One area we can use technology for is mundane matters like even completing addresses. Why must you go physically to a court to hear? I mean, trials can be challenging, but for motions and things and adoption and delivery of judgment, So I believe the bench should do, the bar, should catch up with the bench. Thank you very much, Bayo.
Thank you, my lord. Okay, let me move on to, you can unmute, ma'am.
I just wanted to use the opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this webinar. This is actually one of the first ones I am doing. Like my Lord, Justice Harriman said, it's very good for us to come on board because technology, if you don't embrace it, it will push you aside. These are all new things to us. And I thought, I'm actually out of the country and using the opportunity to still participate digitally. I am really impressed. And I thank you for the opportunity given to be able to be one of the participants. I saw the link in my law school website and I thought, this would be interesting. So I logged on. Thank you for the opportunity. And my Lord, really, Justice Harriman, God bless you. And thanks for the contribution you made. It's true, we have to catch up. Otherwise, we will be put aside if we don't. Thank you. And I hope and pray for good deliberations and as we go on with this webinar. Thank you, Bayo. Bless you.
Good morning. Good morning, all. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, good morning. My name is Olafumi Ho, and I also thank you very much for taking this initiative. And thank you, my lady, as well. As we wait for Professor Ernest Ojukwu, I'm also actually trying to get him to join. I think that this topic is so topical. And I think the reason for it is that we just all know that the level of the judiciary, of the bench, can actually never rise above the level of the bar that is supporting it. So it's garbage in, garbage out. If the bar is decent, if the bar is intelligent, if the bar is upright, that is what they feed the bench. And that's what the bench itself will bring out. So I think that I thank God for this seminar for this reason, because it's bench and bar rubbing minds in terms of this corruption, or the perception of corruption. And I think that one of the easiest, will I say, lowest hanging fruits that I see in curbing corruption in the judiciary is cleaning out the registries. The registries are a disgrace. Anybody who goes to the court registry today, even if it's to file a little affidavit, the most minor, is required to pay some kind of fee, which is not part of the statutory fees. So that's where the disrespect, if you like, for the judiciary starts, from the basest of people in the judiciary. So you then wonder if these people are taking a bribe. That means they don't fear the judges, they don't fear anybody, and that means, it's like a cycle thing that feeds this perception of corruption in the judiciary. My heart bleeds when people talk about judges, because I have friends who are judges. I'm a senior lawyer, and we know that there's so many upright judges, but this brush, we're all tarred with the same brush, and it's heartbreaking. So I think that this is a wonderful seminar. We should do more, and like I said, we should just start with the basics, with the registries. There really has to be a knife, and then we look at ourselves, we lawyers at the bar. What are we feeding the bench? Are we the ones passing bribes or suggesting things, even to our clients? Are we the ones saying, oh, that judge is this, that judge is that, whether true or not? So it's something that I think maybe if you start a series on this, that we would actually catch on. And they say little drops of water make the mighty ocean. We would see change in our land. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for that exposition. It's actually one of the reasons why we had to do this. The question is, who is corrupting the judiciary? Does it start at the judiciary or does it start from the lawyers? I've always taken a position that if the judiciary is corrupt, it's because the lawyers are corrupt. And because lawyers like us are the ones in the judiciary. The judiciary is always at the receiving end of most of the bashing that is meted out to the legal profession. Maybe I can start even with my own experience about 20 years ago when I was sent to file papers. I got there and I think it was the filing, just pay some monies. I went back to my office and I told my boss I couldn't file, and he said, why? I said, well, they asked me for more money than you gave me to file. And in fact, my boss at the time was not very happy that I came back without results. But as a young lawyer, I think I immediately told my boss that, well, I'm sorry, but I cannot give the registrar more money than than I'm supposed to pay, because I do not believe in giving bribes. I think that was the last time my boss sent me to do any filing. But then if I went and filed, my boss would know very well that I would fight them at the registry. So not saying that I've had quite a few experiences where I had to give a bribe or there was an inducement. But I found out that it was left, the decision to give a bribe was my decision. And if I gave in to giving a bribe, then it is my fault. And that's how I began to understand that it is not actually the person who asked for the bribe or who is collecting the bribe, but it's the person that is giving the bribe. Now, in the judiciary, a lot of us lawyers complain about the judiciary and the staff. And I would ask them the simple question: did they put their hands in your pocket? If they didn't put their hands in your pocket, I'm sure you had to make a decision. Now, we always go after the person collecting the bribe. We always write the petition against the judge. What about the person giving the bribe? And what about the person offering the bribe? I don't know if we need to discuss these issues, and we need to come out clearly with an understanding of what our roles are in the issue of corruption. I do not think it's the duty of the judges alone or the magistrates alone. I think first and foremost is the duty of the lawyers who are the ministers in the temple of justice. So we're still waiting for Professor Sorry, does anyone want to speak?
Mario, can I say something?
Yes, please, my lord.
Yeah, I think that I read in the news that you had an NGO for enforcement of or elimination of corruption in the registry. Is that true? I mean, I read something like that, that you've been in the forefront of at least trying to eradicate corruption in the registry. And I think that's a good starting point. But I would really like to know, as an organization or an organized pressure group, is there nothing the NBA can do to actually enforce, to make sure that the registries are corruption free? Why would anybody give money to fight papers? Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, how come the NBA cannot stand on their own and be a force to be reckoned with to prevent this from happening? Why should you be a lone crusader? I mean, it's very strange. Very strange to me. Thank you. And it's very good that Professor Juku is coming on. He has been a law teacher for many years. He's a trainer of trainers. And then he too has been in the forefront of eradicating corruption from the bar. So it's a very good pick, and I can't wait to hear him. And I know that we will not be disappointed. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir. Please, if you can hear me, there is a message for you on your chat box, sir.
I'm sorry, my apologies, everyone. We had a network blackout there. I think we have Professor Juku coming in now. My Lord Justice Harriman, I think I lost connection while you were speaking.
Okay, I see. I don't know where from, but all I said was that I believe I read in the social media that you have an NGO whose purpose is to try to eradicate corruption in our registry. So, and I was just wondering why the MBA as a pressure group, as a body, cannot fight this, at least in the registry. That would be a starting point. And I was wondering, why would anybody pay money to be able to file his papers? Why are lawyers accepting that condition? Why can't they be a pressure group? Why can't they, I mean, why can't they see a CJ and say, we as MBA, we need to stand and say no more of this? Why? Why must you give money to file your papers? Just I don't understand. So I must commend you for the work you are doing, but it looks to me as if you are alone. That's my worry. That's my worry. Really.
Well, my Lord, I met you in this profession. That's number one thing. Number two, you're one of my mentors and teachers. And my Lord too was in the MBA, the Lagos branch as well. So I don't know what the MBA, I think the MBA depends on the leadership. So that's the first thing. And like a lot of us lawyers are guilty. So I think that the guilty conscience of most of us do not allow us to speak out about it, because we say that, well, we're doing it, so it's difficult to speak against it. I actually took a different approach to this, and I may have been corrupt, I may fall victim to corruption, but I've come to terms that we live in a sinful world, and just because I am a sinner doesn't mean that I should not speak out against what is wrong. So I look for a situation where I do not have to give a bribe. I do not have to induce anyone to get my cases moving. And I try my best not to be the one at fault. And I think that's the message I want to pass to other lawyers. That yes, I know we are corrupt. I know that we live in a society where the government has accepted so many things, and our culture and our behavior has accepted so many things. But in the long run, we cannot continue to move forward in this direction. Professor Ojukwu is on board. My apologies. Prof actually had prepared for 1 o'clock, not 12 noon. So thank you, Prof, for coming in. My lords and your honors, your worship that are present here, welcome once again. I hand you over immediately to Professor Ernest Ojukwu, whom we all know. Anyways, needs no introduction. Thank you, Prof. Welcome.
Yes, Chairman, greetings to everybody. I'm sorry that I had a mix-up with the timing. I had actually scheduled myself to be here at 1 o'clock. Only got some calls telling me that the program was actually at 12. So it must be the COVID lockdown syndrome that has led me to think different times. I apologize for that. Well, my own role is simple, to kind of present a keynote on this subject matter and allow us all to take on the discussion as widely as possible. And the topic I have been asked to talk on is the role of lawyers in curbing corruption within the judiciary. As we know already, the corruption is simple. It's defined clearly. Even if we don't know the definition, we all know what it means. So in terms used to describe acts that are considered immoral, such as fraud, graft, bribery, stealing, perjury, lying, dishonesty, indiscipline, and debased acts like sexual immorality or perversion, and a whole lot of areas that we can think of within the gamut of the subject of corruption. Nigeria's index, corruption index, as at 2019, Nigeria was the second most corrupt ECOWAS country. Second most corrupt ECOWAS country, 2019. Transparency International index, and Nigeria keeps Nigerian government, different governments. It happened under Obasanjo. Obasanjo was one of the founders of that. Was one of the founders of this NGO, but he also criticized the foundation each time they released their reports on Nigeria. Yaradua criticized the government. Jonathan criticized the transparency. Buhari has continued to describe their data as false. Now, so it shows clearly that we are hiding something in our heads, because all these times we criticize Transparency International, we don't have our own independent study. We have not done our own independent study of the state of corruption in Nigeria by different entities. We only talk about it generally, but we refuse to accept any other independent views about our own index. Of the 15 countries that form the ECOWAS community of West Africa, Nigeria was the second most perceived corrupt country in the region, just a small area. Nigeria ranked 146 out of 180 countries on the global index in 2019. That's as bad as it is. In fact, we lost 2 steps from the previous year, 2018. 44%, based on this index, 44% of the population stated that or 44% of the population of users of public service, people who use all our public service, the police, the clearing agent, the immigration, everybody, the judiciary, the schools, the hospitals, 44% of the users paid a bribe in the previous 12 months. 45% of the users of all our public services paid a bribe to someone to use our public service. Now, so that's the background to what we're discussing. So the judiciary cannot be separated from the rest of the country. There's a pandemic, or an original pandemic before we even started talking about the COVID, that is enveloping or has enveloped Nigeria in terms of corruption. We remember the DSS raid on judges in Nigeria overnight, and following that raid, Professor Niyi Osundare released a poem. Released a poem which he titled, "My Lord, tell me where to keep your bribe." It's a long poem, very long poem, but I've captured just about 6 paragraphs, which I would like to read. I just took out 6 paragraphs from the long list of paragraphs of this poem. "My Lord, please tell me where to keep your bribe. Do I drop it in your venerable chambers, or carry the heavy booty to your immaculate mansion? The last hope of the common man has become the last bastion of the criminally rich. A terrible plague bestrides the land, besieged by rapacious judges and venal lawyers." I like to emphasize that. Besieged by rapacious judges and venal lawyers. Behind the rituals and rot, rigmaroles, old antics, connive with new tricks. Behind the prime and proper costumes of masquerades, corruption stands naked in its insolent impunity. Our masquerade, our dressing, a white man's dressing. And election petition tribunals, hey, bless those gold mines and bottomless booties. Scoundrel vote riggers romp to electoral victory. All hail our viable bench and conniving bar. I like to emphasize that also. All hail our viable bench and conniving bar. The temple of justice is broken in every brick. The roof is roundly perforated by termites of graft. They kill our trust in a common good. These monsters of mammon in their garish gowns, these monsters of mammon in their garish gowns. Nigeria is a huge corpse with milling maggots on its wretched hulk. They pray every day, they pray every night for the endless decomposition of our common soul. My most honorable Lord, just tell me where to keep your bribe. That's the end of the excerpt I've captured from Nice. That is a public, this poem is a public perception of the judiciary and the entire legal profession in Nigeria today, entire legal profession. And it has been opined, and it's for you to agree or disagree, that corruption in the judiciary is systemic, and built into the fabric of the court system. It is part of it. Is, you know, well, it's as if the judiciary was born with corruption. You know, it's innate in the system. It's in our blood in the judiciary. That's the perception of the public in Nigeria. What are the types of judicial corruption we have today? I have broken it into 3 types. One is the bribery of judges. Bribery of judges and bribery and otherwise of judges. That's how I describe that first category. What it means that bribery of judges and the people bribing them. That's why I put otherwise there. And the otherwise also signifies other forms of inducement. So many times too, judges include all types of judges, customary, area courts, magistrate courts, and higher courts. So when we talk about these judges, that's what judges mean. We're not talking about only high court and above. In fact, the major problem is in the lower courts. It's a buying and selling arrangement. It's a market square in at the level of many regimes of many lower courts. It's a market square. It's a buying and selling. It's an open buying and selling arrangement. There's also the second category, the bribery of court personnel, which Bayo has been fighting for some time in Lagos or around Lagos. The bribery of court personnel is everywhere. All cadres of court personnel, from messengers to the clerks to registrars, to everybody in the system, of bribery of court personnel. Then the third category is lack of openness and transparency in the application and use of judicial funds. You know, we've been crying for fiscal independence for the judiciary. But one of the things we do not know or may not know is that at the federal level, the judiciary had been given or allowed fiscal independence, some relative fiscal independence for a long time. Once the budget is approved, in the way they disburse funds to different sectors, the federal government disburses the judiciary fund to the judiciary, whether it's quarterly or monthly or however the monies come in. They disburse, when they disburse in that form too. So it's not like the states where the governors still withholds the money of the judiciary, and from time to time we come and present cards and say it's a gift. Meanwhile, it's the judiciary's money. It's a gift. So if you don't play ball, he's not going to give you the gift. But at the federal level, it's the judiciary that decides based on their budget. When they have money, what kind of cars they're going to buy, when they're going to buy it, when they're going to change their cars. The president does not determine that, does not give them gifts of cars and gifts of houses and furniture and so on. It's the judiciary that determines that for themselves. The judiciary that decides when to expand their courts, when to build a new court if they have the money in the budget. But in the states, you just have to depend on the governors, even for ceremonies as small as opening a new legal year. You still have to run around the governors. You see, the chief judge has to stay around the government house for hours on end, waiting like any other pedestrian to see the governor. Now, who are implicated in these three categories of corruption? Who are the people implicated? Everybody. Many people are the victims. That is reality. But in terms of the legal profession, in number one, lawyers have been fingered very widely. In many cases, lawyers become the conduit pipe for the bribery and corruption of our judges. Remember, I said judges mean every category of judgeship, so to say, from customary courts to area courts to magistrate courts, where this pervasive corruption is really more. Lawyers are the conduit pipes for those payments. In number two, lawyers have been fingered more than any other type of human being in Nigeria. Bribery of court personnel, number two. And this is throughout the system. We pay for all sorts of things. Lawyers are fingered for that. And one of them is paying multiple thousands of naira to bailiffs to go and do one service or the other. Meanwhile, once the judiciary also attempts to increase the fees for all those kind of services, lawyers, the bar associations in branches oppose them. And yet there's no meaningful assessment for the cost of those services. And of course, we end up in the hands of police who charge you the bribery, in quote, in multiple thousands, more, in hundreds of percentages above what could have paid if we all agreed on the actual cost of those services. Number three, mostly lawyers have been fingered in the openness and transparency. Mostly lawyers have been fingered. Why I say mostly lawyers is that when the money is released to the judiciary, it's usually controlled by the registrar. The registrar is the PAMSEC, is the accounting officer. Trickling down where they have divisions and so on, they also disburse funds to them to manage. So in that respect, most of the people that are in the registrar, most of the chief registrar is a lawyer. The chief judge that is kind of the political leader is a lawyer. Most of the registrars are lawyers in most places now at those levels. There's a massive stealing of money going on in the judiciary, massive stealing of our funds. There's no openness, there's no transparency at all levels. At the lowest levels of the divisions, the lowest levels of the courts, including stealing properties of clients that have been attached in court premises and selling them off at the most debased low income and pocketing the rest for themselves or even selling to themselves. There's massive corruption in the management of funds. Now, what should lawyers do? What should lawyers do? I've divided these into two categories too. One, I categorize the first group as individual lawyers, me and you, individually, what can we do? And then second category, the bar, the profession itself, the bar association, the bar. That's how I've divided what we should do, because we cannot be doing the same thing from these different groups. We have our limitations. As individual lawyers, we surely will have the limitations of the things we can do. While the branches or the bar association also will have limitations in what we can do as bar association. For example, ethics, morality is individual. Individual. You cannot have the group will become, ethical only when the individual is ethical. So the lawyer the single lawyer, the individual lawyer plays a great role in the system. Of course, we have rules of professional conduct that has told us how we should behave. Rule 1 is the overarching rule and tells us that the lawyer shall uphold and observe the rule of law, promote and foster the cause of justice, maintain a high standard of professional conduct, and shall not engage in any conduct which is unbecoming of a legal practitioner. This is the overarching provision in our rules of professional conduct, number one. The other rules that are important for you to look at your private times: Rule 2, Rule 15, Rule 34, Rule 30, Rule 31. These are some specific rules relating specifically to our obligations in relation to the ethics of Nigeria, the morality of the country, and today we're discussing a section of that country in relation to this morality. Now, what of the bar? What is the role of the bar? One of the most ineffective professional associations in the world is the Nigerian Bar Association. One of the most ineffective professional associations in the world is the Nigerian Bar Association. We can reflect on some of those issues, what I call signposts of failure of a failed professional association. The bar has never seriously done anything systemic to fight corruption, nothing, or unethical culture in the legal profession, or help to engender a culture of ethics compliance in the history of the bar. Nothing systemic has been done by the Bar Association. All its past and present actions have been ad hoc and playing to the gallery. A few years ago, the bar set up an anti-corruption commission, but the only events we have noticed from this commission is to organize, at the expense of its chairman, a conference or two. The rest of the actions of the bar have been talk shows, only talk shows. So when we organize conferences, we create a session for ethics. And if you go to that session, the least number of participants will be there. The same thing when we go to sessions conferences. When you, in that particular area that concerns ethics and corruption, the least number of participants will be there. The bar has only one disciplinary committee that sits in Abuja, even though it's not created by the bar. But I'm talking about the bar now because the bar has also some control. Bar has the profession itself has only one disciplinary committee. Now, in the recently released 2020 rules by the disciplinary committee, they have created two panels from the same committee. Two panels. I don't know how that sits with the law because the Legal Practitioners Act does not seem to give room for that. But that's ingenious because I've been calling for multidisciplinary committees for the past 20 years. I've been writing papers. I've drafted in drafts of the Legal Practitioners Act since 2004, 3 different drafts, creating multiple disciplinary committees. The idea is let the body of venture be capable of creating multiple disciplinary committees, as we see done by the NJC. When the NJC they have petitions against judges, they normally create multidisciplinary committees to go and look into it. So you can have like 4 panels sitting at the same time in different parts of the country. And this allows for quick action and relationship to the whole process. And also reduces the problem of everyone, every lawyer and every complainant coming to Abuja from time to time to prove or disprove their case, which is very enormous. An average client will not have that kind of funds to spend to be coming to Abuja or even spend money to hire lawyers to do that for them. So if you have multiple disciplinary committees, they can be empaneled in zones. And the power to create multiple disciplinary committees, we don't need to have permanent members of the disciplinary committee, because the history of our disciplinary committee has also shown that in some cases, when you have permanent members that stay for many years, they become lords there too. They become lords to themselves. They decide they will use the disciplinary committee, especially if they are lawyers holding on as leaders there. They use the disciplinary committee to muzzle everybody, to threaten everybody, to do anything they can to people on a political level. So, but without disciplinary committees, you will not have permanent members. You cannot conquer the territory. So from time to time, when there are cases from, say, in Southeast, you set up one within the caliber of qualified people there. so that people don't need to go to Abuja. So they can sit within one of the courts in the zones there. The same thing in other parts. You could have even two going on in Southeast at the same time, depending on the number of petitions at the time. When they finish, so their terms of reference will refer you to only your case, the cases you are dealing with. When that panel finishes with those cases or case, that's the end of the panel. So multiple. But presently, they have tried to use their number, their quota number, to create two panels. So we'll see how it works when we begin real activities in a few months' time. The bar's disciplinary process before complaints are laid before the disciplinary committee is too slow and corrupt. Too slow and corrupt. We have known in the past that the processes had to go through the Nigerian Bar Association elected officers. Some elected officers in the past had been paid money to hold on to petitions and not present it, or hold on to petition and write that there's no prima facie case when there's prima facie case. There are cases like that. Based on that, the new rules seem to avoid mandatory kind of prima facie cases being made by the Nigerian Bar Association before they goes to the disciplinary committee. So it seems to us now from the new rules that once a petition comes in, there's a mandate to send it to the disciplinary committee. So we see how that works out. I have one a client who petitioned to the disciplinary committee in 2018. We have not had it today. It has not passed the clearing level where the Nigerian Bar Association sets up zonal committees to clear those petitions before it is moved to the disciplinary committee. We have not passed the clearing level. After I had written letters more than 3 times, the first time the zonal committee in Abuja contacted my client was just before the lockdown to come, since 2018. So you can imagine how the clients and litigants will continue to react to us when, for genuine complaints made for 2 years, you don't hear them, you don't hear it. Before you even talk about getting to the disciplinary committee, you don't even consider them. So that's a major problem. The bar has no ethics advisory program for its members. In other parts of the world, there's an advisory program. There's some committee, there's something where from time to time, they keep advising lawyers on ethics compliance in relation to different aspects of ethics. So that from time to time, there are certain actions lawyers would like to take. They first clear it with the ethics committee before they proceed, so that nobody goes into trouble, and so on and so forth. The bar has no such program. The bar has no publicity program for members that are sanctioned. The only thing that you have is a law report by the committee. There's a law report published by the committee, which very few lawyers know about, and the copies are few, where they publish decisions of the disciplinary committee. That's all you have. There's no massive publicity for against people who have been sanctioned, because when people know that people are being sanctioned, it helps a way of making people to think preventively, not to get into trouble, and also gives confidence to litigants and clients to know that there's a sanction process. There's no organized policy where clients and litigants can make complaints to, whether to courts or to the bar association. There's no complaints process whatsoever. Litigants don't know. Even lawyers don't even know how to begin the process of complaint against lawyers. The litigants don't know, have no idea. There's no place, there's no program, there's no policy, there's no framework, nothing, both on the bench and the bar for any complaint process. The disciplinary action against lawyers is based on a complaint principle, what I call a complaint principle. There's no independent legal services commission or such like body. Complaint principle means if there's no petition against a lawyer is free, no matter how heinous his act was. And we have many of them. We have many lawyers who have been charged here, tried here, convicted here. They still retain their wig and gown because there's nobody has complained against them specifically for discipline in the profession. Of course, we have many cases, even big men like the former IG of police and so on and so forth. Many lawyers have been convicted, but nobody took their wig and gown because there's no complaint, no petition against them. The discipline of professional discipline cannot be based on complaint process, but that's how we have been practicing it, as if discipline is normal criminal trial. We have to wait for somebody to complain. No. In a disciplinary process, if you have an independent commission, if you hear a rumor about a lawyer, a rumor, what the lawyer did in court, what the lawyer did to a client, what the lawyer did in a motor park, you go and investigate it and decide whether or not there's a prima facie case to ask the lawyer to say something about it. Then if it's not satisfactory, proceed to prosecute. There's no complaint process. There's no commission, there's no independent commission for that. I've been asking for independent commission for the past 20 years. I even drafted laws to that effect, of course, the bar has no court or judicial monitoring program. There's no court or judicial monitoring program. So we'll talk about corruption in judicial. Where is our platform for monitoring the system? None. There's no court monitoring program. Where branches have court monitoring committees, some branches may have court monitoring. Their work has been in name only. As such branches have no capacity or competence to implement a truly judicial monitoring program. There's none. And the greatest strength of a profession is to have a monitoring program. The monitoring program will monitor not only the courts, but also monitor lawyers that appear before them, appear in the system, work with the registrars and so on and so forth. There's no such court monitoring program in the whole country. And there are 100 and something branches across national. The bar has no program on the use of freedom of information by itself as an organization or its use by the judiciary. If you go to the judiciary, you can't see any publication, any program on their website or anywhere telling you about freedom of information and how you can make a request to them and so on. No, there's none. And the bar association does not have a request for information program for itself. And in fact, the first suit against the bar for freedom of information is a suit I instituted in court against for the bar. The officers of the bar, lawyers, refused to give me information of the bar, and we're in court, and they're even opposing it. So you see that the profession itself wants to keep hiding under the cloak of corruption, because if you are not going to, if you don't want to hide under the cloak of corruption, what's their problem about releasing information to your member who says, give me this information under freedom of information? And even before you talk about the public, the bar itself does not think that it is right to give information. So there's no program. And Freedom of Information Act was made primarily to engender atmosphere of ethics and anti-corruption. That's the only reason why we have the Freedom of Information Act. Nothing else. It's not just for information gathering. It is to stop our leaders and personnel from manipulating our system in such a way as to corruptly enrich themselves against the public interest. That's the only reason why we have the Freedom of Information Act. The bar itself does not have a program and does not agree to even give out information. So before you even attack the judiciary, of course, who will not agree to? There are many cases where some lawyers, NGOs have asked for information from some branch, some judiciary, of course. They refuse, and even though they're in court, nothing's going on. The bar has no money laundering reporting rules or programs for its members. There's no money laundering reporting rules. The Money Laundering Act provides and puts lawyers into a group of finance companies that are mandated to make reports. Now, the bar opposed it because it may infringe on the rights or the freedom of our profession to give to address justice issues with our citizens, because of our mandate to keep in confidence the discussions with our clients, except for the exceptions. Now, that mandate for confidentiality is the key to protecting an independent legal profession. Because if clients are not confident that you are going to keep the discussion confidential, they will not come to lawyers anymore. The system will break down. So it is important to be maintained, yes. the lawyers, the bar association went to court and litigated to make the provision relating to lawyers complying, giving reports on their clients, on their financial status and so on, void, not applicable, or invalid. The courts have so declared, and we even, I think, won to at the Court of Appeal. But in as much as we have taken that fight under the legal process to protect the legal profession, we have an obligation, both under our domestic law and international agreements, for our own protection, to make some reports. And what many branches have done is to negotiate with the country to allow the bar create a self-reporting system in order to check the excesses of many lawyers, because many lawyers are being used for money laundering in the country. That is the truth. Many lawyers, and in fact, the biggest lawyers are the people who were in forefront of fighting the Money Laundering Act, because they are the conduit for our corrupt politicians. So there's a need for the bar to create its own reporting system where lawyers will be mandated to have some report within the restricted zone that we would like, that will not infringe on the confidentiality principle. But we don't have any such thing. It's not even been discussed. The bar has no disciplinary role against judges in NJC. No, not the Constitution. Once discipline is being discussed in the NJC, the members of the bar that are present must leave. They must not take part. The bar sometimes recommends its worst in terms of ethics and value as members of the NJC. As members of the NJC, we appoint our own representatives to them based on political considerations of by-elections, in many cases. We appoint our worst in some cases, where there are some cases where I appointed the worst to go to represent us. And they go there, they just be contractors for NJC. That's what they do. The bar's role in the appointment of judges is jaundiced. We have a jaundiced role in appointment of judges. And appointment of judges is key to creating an ethical anti-corrupt judiciary. The judges you appoint, if you take unethical persons into the bench, they're not going to change. And that's what we see. If you have 40% of corrupt judges, I remember I said judges include, and that's where it's pervasive more, the lower courts. In fact, in local area courts, customary courts, and so on, the corrupt persons there, the corrupt and incompetent persons there are like 80%. That's the truth. And there, the bar does not play any role at all. At all. They don't even look into it. Most branches, they don't think about it. Appointment of magistrates, area courts, customary, the bar does not play any role. And that's where we really incubate those who now go and aspire to become judges. And by the time they're going to become judges, it's more difficult to stop them. And we play a jaundiced role. When in our practice, we have got the judiciary, some judiciary to give the list of recommended judges for the bar to clear. We found that it's been jaundiced. Sometimes some branches will go and one chairman will only decide to clear. And in many cases, we have a corrupt chairman, and we have many corrupt chairmen. The corrupt chairman plays the role of a corrupt arbiter, and of course decides the corrupt judges to recommend or not to recommend, and those that are corrupt, he glosses over them. And sometimes it's based on politics of sections of the state, depending on the leadership of the bar, who to support. And so we have been playing a jaundiced role in the appointment of judges. The bar is not involved in the appointment of magistrates, as I said, and chief registrars. And chief registrars are automatic. They're automatic judges, except something extraordinary. Every chief registrar in the past 20 years have become a judge, except something extraordinary happened. Some openly dishonest persons sometimes sneak into the judiciary as magistrates and chief registrars and deputy chief registrars. And sooner than later, they sneak in as judges. And one of the things we have had in this jaundiced process is when there are petitions against some shortlisted persons, the bar itself, the lawyers will be arguing what happens to presumption of innocence? What happens to and I get laughing. I say it's only in our country we keep talking about this rubbish. Presumption of innocence, it has its limit, has a scope. It does not say that you should appoint somebody to a sensitive position even when you know the person's reputation and character, though you have not convicted the person of any crime. Do you need to convict any person of any crime to know somebody's reputation and character? In the village, they know each other, for example. That when they ask, can you give us 2 persons to go and do this particular thing and go and represent us particular place? They know the persons they cannot send. If you call this person, no, call this person, no, send this person. Some sensitive decision-making position. They don't have to wait for the person to be convicted of murder or stealing or armed robbery before they can say this person has a character of dishonesty. Character of dishonesty is not the same thing as conviction for crime. And if you have among your peers, there are 100 persons in your branch, and 40 persons raise the issue of dishonesty against a member, why should you appoint the person a judge? Only because the person has not been convicted of rape. Why? Why should you wait? And that's why we have been calling for the agency to advertise the list of, open up the appointment process, advertise the names shortlisted, give time for the public to make comment. The same thing for appointment of the lowest court judges, area courts, customary courts, and so on. Publicize it, keep it open, put up a list, let people comment. Even if you don't want to put it in yourself, put it in your website. Let there be public review before you move to the next level. Of course, we won't agree because we don't want to follow the ethics of appointment. We want to appoint somebody we want to appoint. So we hide all these things. And they say, no, there'll be too many petitions. And so what? There'll be too many petitions. It will slow down the process. And so why in a hurry to appoint them? Slow down the process. If it takes 2 years to appoint a set of judges and customary court judges and magistrates, why not? As long as you have the best ethical, balanced persons. We're not looking at angels. We're looking at somebody who's balanced. So it's a major problem. The bar has no policy, no policy statement, no principles, no framework, nothing for the appointment of judges. The bar has no respect for fiscal responsibility or transparency in financial transactions. No fiscal responsibility. The bar has no respect for it. Up to recently, the account of the bar has been something else. It's worse in the branches. It is stealing many branches day by day. Now, I see recently this current regime at the national level has been releasing to us quarterly account reports. But that's not the issue. A result might be good, but if the process of the result is not open and transparent, you still have a major problem. We're talking about transparency. We're not saying you're a thief. No. Be open and transparent. And recently we saw a letter from one of the officers accusing the president of not being open with the management of the system in the sense of taking decisions alone. You cannot be transparent if you're taking decisions alone. It's not possible. So we still have a jaundice process where we need transparency, openness, and transparency. It's key, it's the heart of rule of law. So the bar has a lot to do. A lot to do on this level. Now, but is the bar and the bench ready for sanitization? Because we're looking for how our individuals as lawyers and as a profession, how we can help salvage what's happening in the judiciary. So far, what I've said so far, do you see how we can play that role when we're at this level? We have been admonished by many times physicians heal themselves. We have had it from non-lawyers and lawyers. Are we really ready to do or continue to share to do this, or should we continue to shed crocodile tears? If we do embark on urgent self-cleansing, external bodies, if we don't embark on urgent self-cleansing, external bodies will do it for us, wrongly or rightly. And that's one of the reasons, one of the things that account for the DSS raid on judges. If we don't do it for ourselves, if we don't create self-monitoring processes, cleanse the lawyers, attempt to cleanse the judicial system, it will be done by an external body sooner than later, rightly or wrongly. It will be done because nature abhors vacuum. So I've started that DSS example as such external body. But the gap created by our own failure or unwillingness to self-cleanse would always be a right reason to justify a leader's penchant to use a fight against corruption to muzzle the independence of the judiciary and the legal profession. We'll give them that reason, and they strangulate us finally. The Supreme Court of Nigeria started its journey to perdition when it got entangled in an election petition case and used the National Judicial Council to suspend Justice Salami, the then president of the Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court, through NJC, went further on the road to perdition when it proposed and lobbied for an increase in jurisdiction to hear election appeals from governorship election decisions. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court cries every day that it is overworked. Crocodile tears, the Supreme Court at that time lobbied the bar to support it. And the bar went to the National Assembly and gave the Supreme Court what he wanted, a seat in election controversies. Have we reflected on why no single court in Nigeria, including the Supreme Court, has not implemented an effective automated verbatim recording of his proceedings? We don't have one effective. If you go to a few courts, a few judges are long handwriting is killing them. Why? It's one of the problems about transparency and accountability. If the judges don't want to let go, is their leadership. They don't want to let go the power to control recording. I hope I'm being heard. If I'm not being heard well, please indicate by chat. Because I hope I'm being heard. Because you know what internet does from time to time. Indicate by of recording, they can determine what you have on record. But some judges want to determine what to record you. Once they determine what they can record you, they can do anything to you, and therefore they can manipulate the system. So why is there no single court that has a complete automated system in the whole country? Not a single court. We have the Supreme Court, we have 36 states high court, we have Federal High Court, Court of Appeal, we have Constitutional Court of Appeals, we have every court. Not a single court has a complete court recording process. So there's a problem. Have we ever seen capital projects of our courts advertised for bids in the newspapers? I am not seeing anyone. I don't know whether you have seen. Or websites, as we see from other jurisdictions. Don't we have newspapers or websites where we can know build a court, extended court, they advertise for bids? I have not seen our judiciary advertising their projects, but they have massive projects from time to time. First, I must point out from the onset that Nigerian lawyers, at least those trained in Nigeria, are not prepared to live by the standards of business ethics or any ethics at all. The 5 years LLB program has no ethical course in Nigeria, no ethical course. The ethics at the law school lasts about 3 weeks. When I hear lawyers talk about ethical challenges in practice and complain that the law school don't do enough. They worry only that young lawyers are not properly dressed or that their etiquettes are at zero. They worry about lawyers dressing, worry about young lawyers not agreeing to leave the seat when seniors have come late to court. That's all they worry about, dressing. And half of the time they're looking at the girls dressing, not even the boys dressing. That's what many senior lawyers complain about, the girls dressings. And I said to them, how are you seeing those dresses? Why are you seeing those dresses? Why are we not talking about something more serious? We're talking about dressing, talking about not leaving seats for seniors to sit. Why are you coming late to court? Why is the court crowded? Why are you not making the court not to be crowded? And so on, so that people can come in and do their cases without anybody struggling for seats. And you're talking about another human being leaving a seat for you to go and sit. That's what they talk about. At the extreme, when we have cases of misconduct before the disciplinary committee, they use the rule and case method and insist that misconduct must be in a professional capacity only. Generally, the bar, the disciplinary committee has five categories of discipline. One of them is conduct in a professional capacity. And that's, if you go to the cases, most of them deal with conduct in a professional capacity. They don't look aside conduct outside, professional work. And that's a major problem. Our legal system ought to be based on a lawyer-client relationship, which requires a demonstration of virtual ethics, good character, and not even just deontological ethics, the ability to follow or hide behind the rules. Rules have become proxies for the right thing, right in quotes, when the distinction between obeying the rule and acting ethically becomes blurred. When we hear, if it is legal, it is ethical, or as long as it is not illegal, it is okay. That's what lawyers tell us. And I interrogated presidential candidates and other candidates running this last election who were bribing lawyers, who were corrupting lawyers, who were paying them money, inducing them with some shows and activities to get their votes. And when I challenge them, they tell me, Prof, it's not illegal. There's nothing in the Constitution that says it's illegal. Those are the people that are problems. If you can pay bribe to take a vote, you can pay bribe to do anything else. So rules have taken the front seat over ethics. In standard conception, lawyers' choices need to prioritize the client's lawful needs within the adversary system of justice, even if this causes harm to third-party society or even justice. The neutral partisan role requires that lawyers in role are not held to the same standards of morality scrutiny that an individual out role will be subject to in society, and no responsibility is leveled against the lawyers for sharp practice unless expressly unlawful. And that's what we do not demarcate between ethics and just law. And so we just say, well, he's presumed innocent, when we know the guy is a liar. We know, everybody knows he's a liar in your community. You lie about your age. What else wouldn't you lie about? You lie about the age of your child. What else wouldn't you lie about? How can you be a judge if you lie about the age of your child, in front of your child? But we say, no, you have not been convicted. So we need to convict the person of lying about his age before we now say he shouldn't be a judge. Is this imported partisan role that has dominated our legal practice still relevant? Should we Ubuntu legal profession that emphasizes the importance of interdependence? A person is a person through other persons, especially within the adversary context, where lawyering is seen as a contest or war between individuals. And if we must construct an Ubuntu legal profession, it means that we must do unto others as we want others to do to us. Would you be happy if you were the litigant for the opponent to win just because the opponent paid to win? If you are happy, then continue to pay the bribe. Would you want to be described as a rapacious judge or a venal lawyer, just like the professor described judges as rapacious judge and describe our lawyers as venal lawyers? Would you like to be described that way? This discussion has come at the right time, because of the present discussion of corruption as a way of life, and it's a culture of Nigeria and Nigerians. Can lawyers and the bar heal the system when many lawyers and the bar are immersed in their own stool, in their own shit? Can you get out to clean up the other parts of the house when you are filled up on your body? Do they apply and interpret laws and rules dishonestly or capriciously? Are lawyers shamelessly irresponsible, not accountable, openly dubious and fraudulent, brazenly nepotistic, clannish, sectional and tribal, power drunk? Are our lawyers inhumane? Are we engaged in serial misconduct, unconscionable abuses, sexual enslavement, and ethical degeneration? I talk about sexual enslavement. 40% of our law firms molest our girls, our lawyer girls, from attachment, from court attachment as law students to employment. If you don't pay, if you don't play game, you're out of the law firm, or you don't get promotions, or you don't get travel allowances, or don't go to conferences. And happens in our law firms. And it happens in the bar association. At the time, there was a report on that, where our leaders, our elected leaders, molest the staff in the law firm, in the secretariat. In fact, in one particular case, she was employed, and in 3 months, the president promoted her 3 times above those who have been there, and she resigned because she knew exactly why she was being promoted. So she didn't want. Do Nigerian lawyers bribe all officials of court or registries to file or retrieve any document? Do we bribe all officials of court or registries to file or retrieve documents? We bribe all officials of government agencies to file or retrieve any document or information. Anything we go to, we must bribe. Do we receive money from clients to pay or pretend to pay over bribes to judges, police, etc.? Do we have lawyers who receive money, who take money? Their job is charge 1 million and then charge 2 million for judges or police. Do we bribe policemen on clients' behalf to solve clients' problems or block the flow of justice? Because do we steal files? Do lawyers steal files from court with the collusion of court officials? Sometimes we can't be, in case it's not listed, because there's no file. They've just stolen it out between them and the registrar. Nobody can find the file. They just can't find the file. Nothing can be done. You can't do anything about it. The case cannot be heard. Do we convert claims funds? Series of cases where claims funds are converted. Do we lie as a way of life? Just a word of life. Lie. First lie before you now say the truth. Do we delay trials as our major way of handling cases? Delay trials. Set out to delay trials. 5 frivolous applications to delay trials or executions. Forge documents for election cases and other cases. Extort money from clients. Collude with opposing clients or opposing clients' counsel to prejudice their clients. Join an armed robbery. We have had cases where lawyers have joined in armed robbery. Receive stolen property. That's our major one. Receive them, particularly cars. Lawyers who their job is to receive cars. And it's very difficult to think about the lawyer as a person receiving stolen property. Lead internet fraud. Do we lead internet fraud? We're more competent there. Write Yahoo letters. As prosecutors, do we take money from defendant and institute a frivolous charge against that defendant or a lenient charge? Oppose bail when not paid. When you are not paid, you oppose bail. Or don't oppose bail, no matter how serious the charge may be, or how simple for the defendant to jump bail, and make it simple as long as money has been paid. Do we jump queues? Do you go to any public places where queues are required, including driving on the road, and you jump it as a lawyer? Do you struggle for food and snacks at public functions, at the bar stations, of course? When we go to conference stands, people struggle for food. Before you know it, half of the food is on the ground. Litter environment. Do you litter environment? Convert MBA money to personal use. We have many cases in the branches. Many cases. Give and receive money to vote at MBA elections. I just talked about it now. Drive on cabs and shoulders and road shoulders because we want to beat the traffic. Bribe law teachers. to pass examinations. Receive money from law students to influence results, sorting, as we call it in many universities. Pay money to dean of law to receive law school form. It's a business. And pay for PhD defense. It's a normal thing now. You have to pay for PhD defense in many universities. You sexually molest our law students as law teachers. You sexually molest them, of course. Plenty. Sell grades to law students. Yes. Pad lawyers' bills as in-house counsel to receive kickbacks from retained lawyers, as in-house counsel. Register fake law firms as INEC in-house counsel and sell or rent lawyers in the INEC itself. They register fake law firms, assign those cases themselves and then sell those cases to lawyers outside. There are many. I don't need to continue. There are too many. If I continue, we will not go to this. So let me go down so I can summarize. I mentioned earlier that the foundation of lawyer ethical behavior does not exist in Nigeria. Does not. Because the lawyer has not been prepared to live by that standard. After being called to the bar, no ethics training or even meaningful discussion takes place through the lawyer's lifetime in Nigeria. I'm not arguing that ethics education is it only. No. I am aware of the importance and the effect of monitoring, naming and shaming, and sanctions through punishment on people's behavior. At present, none of these exist, or they are grossly inadequately used in reality. Resistance to legal ethics education sometimes also flows from the belief that a person's ethical development takes place early on in life, and that no amount of teaching, especially teaching that takes place after the formal schooling years, is going to change that person's nature. Research, however, has shown that a person's moral development is not static, but dynamic, and that it has the capacity to change and develop at any stage. Especially during early adulthood, with the appropriate stimulus. Research aimed specifically at law students has supported the general research regarding moral development. And many studies have shown that students' education and law training can have a profound influence on their ethical outlook. Research suggests that law students entering university are ripe for developing more mature, sophisticated moral reasoning. If we have to create hope for future generations, then we must focus on our young ones. We need to give them the opportunity to have awareness of ethical issues that arise in their life, awareness of their values and dispositions, awareness of situational pressures and behavior modifications, awareness of how to make choices between the range of standards and values that are available to help resolve those ethical issues, including professional conduct rules, but not exclusively so, and awareness of how to implement that resolution in practice and in the spirit of Ubuntu. Some time ago, the Minnesota Crime Commission wrote, every baby starts life as a little savage. He is completely selfish and self-centered. He wants what he wants when he wants it. His bottle, his mother's attention, his playmate's toys, his uncle's watch, or whatever. Deny him these, and he sits with rage and aggressiveness, which would be murderous were he not so helpless. He's dirty, he has no morals, no knowledge, no developed skills. That's the toddler we're talking about. This means that all children, not just certain children, but all children are born delinquent. If permitted to continue in their self-centered world of infancy, giving free rein to their impulsive actions to satisfy each want they want, every child will grow up a criminal, a thief, a killer, or a rapist. Lawyers can only play a meaningful role in the fight against corruption if you have ethical lawyers. I repeat, lawyers can only play a meaningful role in the fight against corruption, whether it's in the judiciary or anywhere else, if we have ethical lawyers. And ethical lawyers are not born, they are made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I feel like I've been in church this afternoon. It's a very deep discussion. It's a discussion that we need to keep reminding ourselves of. I know that my Lord Justice Wale Ariman is still here. Some of my lords are here, and magistrate. So the mic is open. Just signify so that you can be unmuted and to add to the discussion or to ask Prof any questions you may need to ask. So the mic is open. Thank you very much. You can just signify, raise your hands or unmute your mic, whatever you need to do. Prof, thank you very, very much for this exposition. I find myself also thinking about my role in all of this and having the opportunity to lead a branch of the MBA. I keep asking myself, have I done enough? Have I been part of the problem? Did I struggle, or did I push for the right things at the right time? Have I played my role effectively? I have had some constraints even while I was chairman of the MBA. I find myself not being able to express myself independently as I wanted to. People would say to me, "You're now in the Bar Association, you cannot speak against the bar. You're now in the Bar Association, you cannot point a finger at any kind of corruption activity." You get dragged down by the fact that the title now weighs you down. So, and with appointments to judges, I did have the problem. I had a running battle with the judiciary on this issue. None of the list of the magistrates came before the Bar Association. It didn't come before me. Their applications, or what should I say, their shortlisting wasn't people that were to be admitted or to be appointed magistrates. We just heard that those people have been shortlisted or will be appointed as magistrates. And I had a problem with one of them who was my branch member. And I said, with the antecedents of this lawyer, the bench will suffer in future if such a lawyer were to be appointed to the magistracy. You would not believe it, Prof, but I got calls from everywhere, even places I never thought I would get calls from to tell me to back down. And I just wondered to myself, these are the same people talking about the integrity of the judiciary. And I have just raised an alarm that a lawyer will, a lawyer might have a problem. So these are some of the issues that maybe, Prof, you can still enlighten us on. I think somebody, I'm looking for the person now. MMA Sani, yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Leonard Sek, very grateful to be here. I've enjoyed the lecture. I joined in while Prof was talking, and all the ease about the legal profession. But one is very fresh, and I'd like him to respond to that. He just mentioned it, and that is the thing about our elections. I belong to some other professional associations. CITN, for example. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you can. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. And I give an example of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, Nigeria. The much I know is that I just get, once you are a regular person, you pay, and then when election comes, they announce to you those who are retiring or who are no longer going to be there, and then, without much ado, you do yours. But we've seen NBA election that has been as contentious as it has always been. We moved away from the delegate system, which was thought to be extremely expensive. I was shocked at a particular forum when I heard that lawyers, wanting to be national officers, especially at the apex, spend as much as billion. Some put it at 2 billion, and I thought that was scandalous. Now we have this one that, is the way it is. I don't know how much people spend, but the competition, why is it like that? And then what are the other ways by which we could do it that would make us a bit more relaxed? Is it about the stake? What are the stakes that some of us don't know? What do people want to go and achieve there that you have to go this much? And then the animosity between and among candidates and their supporters. Thank God, the one of the candidates. Look, I mean, you don't have to go that far. How do we do it? Yeah, please. I mean, what are the antidotes? I want Prof to speak to that specifically, so that
Well,
that could be my own.
Well, maybe Prof can speak to that later, because we're focusing on judiciary here. I know he referred to it in passing, but we're talking about the relation, corruption in relation to the judiciary. So maybe Prof personally can indulge you in that aspect. So if we have questions related or comments related to our role as lawyers in the corruption index or corruption situation in the judiciary and how to combat it is what we will push for in this session for now. But Prof, please feel free to engage.
Well, while we're waiting for more people to ask anything or say anything, maybe I can just say a few words on that. The problem about the election in NBA, the reason why I talked about it is if the leaders bribe voters to lead, they cannot be transparent in the management of our affairs. There's no saying about it. You can't give what you don't have. And if we as the voters accept to be bribed to vote, then we cannot be in a position to talk about our role in cleansing the judiciary or any part of Nigeria of corruption. You can't distinguish the two. You can't demarcate between the two. Corruption is corruption. Once you're used to one, if you can lie in one case, you can lie in the other case. And that's why I mentioned it. For us to change what we do at the bar, which is the opportunity, one of the reasons for corruption at any level is the opportunity. You limit opportunities, you limit also avenues for corruption. Yes, if we change how we conduct election, it might limit that opportunity for corruptly engaging in corrupt practice during elections. But we need to all sit down. The bar needs to, leadership has, but we have not had any president since 1998 that has had the courage to bring people together, to sit down to fashion a new form of leadership for the bar. We have not had the courage. We have only been mingling through this terrain and imposing the ideas on us. So if we have honest leaders who really would like to engage in how we lead ourselves going forward, I think we will achieve that, as you gave us example. In other places too, I've been to bar associations meetings in US, in some states. I've been to the inns, of course, and so on, and I know how they conduct their leadership transitions. So simple, so easy. You can't have anybody, no lawyer can send an email to members saying, canvassing for vote. It's actually a misconduct. You can't even send an email before we talk about text messages. And we even go out to steal people's data to be able to send those emails and text messages. So it's a lot of problems. Where our competition for the president of the bar is even higher than the competition for president of the country. And even more demanding. I think I traveled to nearly 97 branches during my campaign. 97 branches, some of them 4 times. 97, there are 125 then. I traveled to 97 branches, some 4 times. even without talking about bribing anybody. You can imagine the expense and the danger and the trouble. Just I had to shut down for 1.5 years of my practice to campaign for the bar.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Let's ask Chinelo KK. Chinelo KK, you want to speak? You want to say something?
And also encourage people if they're having mic problem to type on the chat. They can also type questions on the chat. You can encourage them to type questions if they have problems speaking on mic and all that, and type on the chat too.
Okay, so we have Chinelo, please. You have unmuted your mic, so please go ahead. We have nothing on the chat yet. Okay, Chinelo.
I think Chinelo is having a problem with the mic. There's a question from Itoro Clement. Itoro Clement is on the chat while we wait for Chinelo. Says, what in your opinion is the way forward? Is Chinelo back now?
No, she's still not back.
Okay, so Clement says, what in your opinion is the way forward? Can we draw up a roadmap for this internal sanitization? Yes, you can see through my speech that I gave the roadmap. I gave the things we're not doing and things we can do. There are no policy documents, there are no policy statements, so it requires leadership. Chairman Bayo can do as much as he can from his little corner, and I can do from my little corner, but it cannot work fully, cannot materialize fully, cannot manifest unless we take it up as a leadership thing at the bar level, at the professional level, both bar and bench, at that level of leadership. It requires leadership.
Okay, then Chinelo and Mr. Sunny is still hands up, so let's
Can you hear me?
yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is what Prof said we don't size our the lecture I that it is very at our
Maybe you can mute Sunny and see whether Chinelo's own can come out. Sunny is still open. Okay. I can't hear
Chinelo,
Chinelo at all.
I advise that you use the text function and ask your questions. So let's probably have Mr. Sunny, who was very...
Go to the chat and type so that I can see it. Yeah.
So, Mr. Sunny, do you have...
Chinelo, and type.
Okay. Yeah, Prof. My question is this. For you to become a judge, from being a lawyer, I understand one of the criteria is that you must have done a number of cases, and these cases are expected to be, quote, contentious cases.
Yeah.
And then, within a state of time, a number of cases and concluded same. Now, the challenge I see is that this is expected within the context of the labyrinth of problems, the challenges that we have around the courts, which you have, enumerated. In my view, this seems to be one of the reasons, people desperately wanting to get around meeting what I see as a very difficult, qualification in some cases. We've had cases of people who have had to do some very untoward things, trying to achieve this. In your view, how do we get around this to avoid, corruption. My case, the case is being delayed. The registrar is, sitting on some files or is dishing out dates to some other people, favorable dates. Yours is there, your clients are there, and all of that. The case is contentious, and you have to meet up. That deliberate requirements that you have to meet up these within the context of the difficulties. Isn't it a challenge in itself?
Well, there's a challenge. It's
I don't know
not
if you understand
the
my
demand.
question.
Yes, I do. The demand for cases or judgment of cases for appointment of judges is even less than the demand for appointment of senior advocates. It's actually where the problem is in appointment of senior advocates, where you need a quantity of cases from different levels of court to meet the criteria. Yes, that's one of the reasons why we have litigations. It has been identified, numerous litigations, because people want to achieve that qualification. It may not account for, it may account for only a tiny part of the corruption problem in the system. The cases we're talking about, people pay more to delay than pay more to get their cases done. Delay is the key, is the major cancer in the system, not even getting in fast. Getting fast is okay. Now, the aspect, the only way, we have to have some criteria. If we want to appoint advocates as senior advocates, and also have some experience as litigation people before they become judges, you need to have some cases. It should not only be the criteria anyway. My own suggestion is that that criteria for judgment should not be all the criteria for appointment. We can have some other alternatives. You should be able to mix, for example, judges from the other areas of our practice life, including law teachers and so on. You should be able to appoint judges without requiring them to go to court, because not always the litigation experience is brought to bear in deciding cases. There are also jurisprudential and other levels of experience that you can bring to bear. So we can infuse a whole lot of different sectors of our profession into both appointment of judges and SAN. Just as they do in SAN, they also appoint those from the academics. But the major way to deal with corruption in the judicial system is starting with the appointment of the personnel. The personnel is the major problem. And remember, whenever I talk about judges, I'm talking about the whole system, not judges of high court and so on. That's where we have less problem, where we have the major problem, and where we have the access to justice major problem is at the lower level. The area courts, customary courts, magistrate court is a buying and selling arrangement. And it is the personnel that is the problem. So we start with the appointment of personnel. The bar must have a policy framework, meet with the leadership of the bench, and agree on way forward on appointment of personnel. That's one. It must be transparent, it must be open. Those are the areas that must be touched. Then we have to have a court monitoring system. There must be a court monitoring system. If we don't have a court monitoring system, it's not a critic-based court monitoring system. It's not an enemy-based court monitoring system. A monitoring system that also that will have the judiciary involved will be very nice. But it just help them to report to them on the developments in the bar and in the system. And one of the things you find that, for example, if you go to many court systems, judiciaries, they have bad boys and girls in the registrars, lots of them. And when someone commits a crime in one aspect of the registry work, after finding the person guilty, you know what they do? In 80% of the time, they just transfer the person to another division or another office. That's all they do. So they recycle the criminals within the judicial system. But if we had a court monitoring system, we'll be able to identify some of those cases, for example, and make it public, and chase them and fight them and get them out. So the bar must have a court monitoring program. If it doesn't have a court monitoring program, it can never play a role in the system.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I'm looking at a situation where, I mean, you are an expert in terms of law reform and have suggested many reform policies. Now, do we need a law to make this work? because my problem is the State Judicial Service Commission, for instance. I think I did, while I was chairman, I did try to lobby for the reconstitution of that committee, of that commission, because you had the chief judge, you had the attorney general as a member, you had one or two or three lay people as a member, then you had an appointment from, well, quote and unquote, the bar association. I have never been faced with or been informed that the bar has to make a nomination to the State Judicial Service Commission. But how do we, is there a law that we can push forward, or how do we do this from the, to plug that hole in the appointment process?
There's no law. Nigeria is over-lawyered. We're over-lawyered. That's why we're over-lawyered. Too many laws. There's no law that can. Our system. There's no system that's perfect. There's no system of law or any legal system in any country that's perfect. Every system has loopholes. Every. So if you redraft it and put some other, the problem with Nigeria is not the system or the law, but with the human being. Is a human being. You see, for example, you said the bar was not involved in the nominating somebody to NGS. Well, the bar was involved in the MBA and nominations, some nominations a few months ago, and the leadership appointed their wife. The bar was involved, but the leadership appointed their wives and relations. So it's not the law. The bar has been involved, but they appoint their wife. So it's not the law, it's the human being that's the problem. There's no way you can change any law about appointments that will help us, unless the human being is ethical. Working on the principles of openness, transparency, fairness, Ubuntu.
Okay, Chinelo has finally sent her text. Prof, would you want to respond to that?
Okay, let me read it. During the lecture period, Prof said something about sanitizing the system or have external bodies do it for us, citing examples of GSS raid on judges. He equally talked about corrupt practices in all sectors of the judiciary, beginning from the Supreme Court. From all these instances, it is very clear that those whose responsibility is to sanitize the systems are themselves corrupt. What can we do as individual lawyers or as concerned bodies to curb this corruption? Because obviously, the bar has not helped in a way. You have just concluded what I concluded. The bar is the problem, actually. If the bar wakes up, it will now help to align its members to some body language, with some body language. Because the members need the body language of the bar. If we bar sets up the process, our body language as members will begin to change. And if we begin to change, we will affect the changes in the systems where we populate. We populate the customary courts. We populate the area courts. We populate the magistrates. We populate the judges, High Court, Court of Appeal, and above. We populate them. So we're not talking about some other people from the moon. It is we. And if the bar sets up its own machinery effectively, our language will begin to change. It's not an overnight thing, but it will begin to have effect. And that will trickle down also to the training grounds. Our training grounds, the law faculties, they're not doing enough. Corruption is rife in the faculties of law. Our training ground is not, we're not even touching the fact of producing lawyers that are ethical at all. We're not discussing it. Then it will also affect how we train lawyers at law school. It will affect how we mentor lawyers as we go forward. Because there are no programs. All throughout this lockdown, there are no ethical programs. But in other places, it's ethics that they'll be focusing on now. Now that we have a lot of time, we deal with different aspects of ethics. There's no program at all going on. So it is we that's the problem, not the Supreme Court, not the customary court.
Okay, so we don't want to spend too much time. If no one has a question, I see some bar leaders here. I see FIDA chairperson from Lagos. I don't know if there's any challenges he's facing as a bar leader in in encouraging her members. I also saw the bar chairman of the MB and the Kurudu chairman of the MB. I don't know if they have something.
Hello.
Yes,
we're hearing
my
you.
chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Bayo. My lords, and our own senior
Teacher.
advocate of Nigeria and a prof,
Teacher.
a teacher. I don't really have much to say than to appreciate Prof, to thank him very much for the insightful, thought-provoking, and brilliant lecture. And I'm not very surprised because he has always been very wonderful when it comes to academics. So we have really learned a lot. And really, there is no gainsaying that we all have to do our bits to ensure that the image of the judiciary is well protected. And like he rightly observed and mentioned, that the bar have a very big role to play. The judiciary themselves have a very big role to play, as well as even the government. It's a holistic thing. It requires a holistic, pragmatic approach for something good to come out of this. And we don't just have to come for these lectures and then at the end of the day, we leave everything to go down the drain. We must be able to all start thinking on how to walk the talk for something good to happen. Because it's very, very, very disheartening that every now and then, fingers will keep on being pointed towards the judiciary. It doesn't augur well for our profession at all. It's a noble profession. And we must all try to be good ambassadors of this legal profession. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you. Thank
We are
you.
very grateful, sir.
Thank you.
I have the immediate past vice chairman of Lagos branch, so Mrs. Bola Animashan.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Hey,
Teacher.
I salute you, ma'am. I salute you, madam.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I've just sent you a chat.
Okay, great.
And which you responded to.
Okay,
And
yeah, sure.
We know that this corruption at every level is very, very deep. But that should not stop those of us that don't like it to stop working. It's not something that somebody can do. Even people that at the aim of their affair that can make the changes, are they ready? Some people put them there. And because he who pays the piper will dictate the tune, even if they want to make efforts. I know a lot of prosecution that Bayo suffered. And when I was the vice chairman, I could not come out openly because I was being warned, he knew. But now I'm a free person. And for all we need to do is to sensitize a lot of people that have the same attitude. Bayo, well done for what you are doing. Let's just get as many people that can stand out against corruption. And when people see the influence we are making, a lot of people will get us, will join us. So let us continue with this anti-corruption crusade. And with God on our side, we'll be able to make something. I'm ready to support the fight against corruption in the judiciary and at the bar. I have nothing to lose. The only thing I can lose is that I will not vie for any election. Like when teacher was vying, they said, teacher, very difficult to, he's a teacher, he's not an administrator. And when they say you are not an administrator, you know what they mean by that. So the few of us who are ready to sacrifice the post and everything just to make our voice and our stand known, let us continue. And we pray that with God on our side, we get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Animashan. Thank you for your support all the time.
Yeah.
So, teacher, I don't know if there's no other hands up. Maybe you. I thought Ms. Wally Harriman was still around. Justice Wally Harriman. I know there are some silent magistrates and customary court presidents, I think they're just listening in.
That's okay.
Recently, Dr. Muniz Banire raised issues surrounding their remuneration
yeah,
and welfare.
sure.
And these are indices of what causes corruption. I've had numerous conversations with the judiciary. I've been involved in training the judiciary staff, the registry staff about the issue of corruption.
Sure.
And it all comes down to us as lawyers. I think that's why let's start it from here.
That's true.
What am I doing? What is Bayo doing to compound that problem? They're in a fixed environment. They have, Justice Raleigh Harriman mentioned this in the beginning before you came in, that they are very restricted. They are being watched. So nobody in the judiciary goes all out, and they don't do it openly. If they do it, and so it's us that we need to speak to ourselves. And we don't have a good disciplinary panel. We don't have a good disciplinary. You've already mentioned that. We need to strengthen that. And our bar chairman needs to be more focused. And definitely, I think it will take a while, because I think we've developed a culture of corruption in Nigeria. So if you are not corrupt, you are not normal, so to speak. That is what I've experienced. Even lawyers are not willing to fight this fight, which I don't know. Prof, how do we do this?
Sure. I like individual like Louis Bannery. I also sent him a special thank you for that missive, and that he sent. I sent special thank you to Louis for that missive. But you see, there's a limit. That's also the limitation of individual actions. The government may listen, may not listen, but it could go to the fiscal commission and say, look, we must change the judges' salaries at this level, at this level. You can imagine the effect. It would generate more effect. So there's a problem with the leadership of the bar in focusing on what they should be focusing on.
Prof, should we take that as your last comment? Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. I can close my own comment by saying that
there's still one more person, Prof. Okay. I think let's allow this person. Nike's iPhone. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're a judge or a magistrate, but it's just Nike's iPhone I see here. Please carry on.
Thank you very much. Yes, I spoke at the beginning. I introduced myself. Okay. And so what I would like to contribute is, first of all, thanking Prof, and then my joy at this seminar. And secondly, it is so sobering. And I think for a number of us, we have kind of looked at corruption more about the judiciary. But listening to Prof has been so sobering that really and truly, we are all culpable. And when I say all, I just generalize. So what I would like to encourage for you is, let's start this series, because Prof says we have to start somewhere. Let's start this series and let's build up on it. You never want a grain of sand, a drop of water turns into a mighty ocean. And let's see how this can become a mighty voice that can change this society. So that's just what I would like to encourage you as the convener. Of course, Prof's credentials are well known in this. And we will find that there are more people than we know that are interested in cleaning this audience table. So can we do that, please? I'm ready to put up my hand to help as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, let me just put my phone number there, and then maybe we can get in touch. Prof has always, in fact, from the beginning, Prof has been a mentor in this regard. And it's people like him. If I get into trouble, I just say, I know Prof. And then kind of solves my problem there. Prof, sorry for mentioning your name in places that you do not know about. So, but I find strength actually in a lot of our senior lawyers who that are fighting these fights in their little corner, and definitely they're very encouraging and my backbone. And I know that some of them have limitations, but I'm also trying to see if we can get the younger generation involved, and that's where Prof has come in. I think we had an essay competition on the issue of corruption one time, and of course, the issue of money always comes to bear, but I always have this attitude that money follows an agenda. Money follows a concept, a vision. Many of us like to look for the money to start something. A lot of people have asked me, how do you do this? And I say, well, I have a phone. As long as I have a phone, I can buy 1,000 naira data. There's so many things you can do with that. And it's just about connecting people that matter. In fact, Prof, somebody asked me, said, how much am I paying you to do this today? I said, Prof, I said, Prof is not going to ask me for money. I'm saying that too. I said, Prof is not going to ask me for money because these are issues that people like Prof are very invested in as a lawyer, as an academic, as a litigator, and as a spouse of the judiciary. So he's rolled into one. Somebody asked me, why didn't I invite a judge to speak on the other side? I said, well, this is targeted more at lawyers. And I think Prof has an all-round view, being also a spouse of a judge, knows the intricacies, knows the emotional weight on a judge who has to face a petition, who has to face lawyers every day, every 5 days a week. I can't imagine facing lawyers with all sorts of their cases and their, in court. I think that emotional burden, and then at the end of the day, for somebody to just write a petition against you. So I think Prof has really done this great thing for us today, and I hope he's coming back very soon to do it. So, Prof, last
thank you to all thank you to Bayo Chair and all our colleagues for listening to me. Thank you very much. And I encourage all to, as Madam Neji said, we should all go out and keep doing the little we can, from sweeping from the little space you can where you are standing. It will make a difference.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much, Prof, for doing this for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for signing. I know there are multiple Zoom meetings going on right now. So maybe I will release you to go and join some other meetings. Thank you, my lords. Thank you, your honors, your worship. And please give me some feedback. My phone number is there. If there are other programs you want us to design specifically for specific issues, we can pass that on to Prof and pass that on to other people who maybe be able to do those programs. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Bayo. Well done.
Thank you. Well done.
Well done so well.
Thank you, Bayo. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.